Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let's bring this meeting to order at 5:02 p.m. And this is the Whitesburg Unified School District Board meeting, February 9th, 2023. Ms. Subaki, do we have any public comments for closed items?
We do not have any online. We do not have anyone in the audience.
Okay, great. Thank you. We will now break the closed session and we will reconvene open session at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to reconvening from the open session. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Welcome and thank you for all of those joining us virtually online, and welcome to everyone here in public. This is the February 9th, 2023 board meeting. And tonight we have two special presentations. One on the Whitesburg Arts Programming by Sarah Nitzos. And then we also have the District Priority 1 and 2 Reading and Mathematics by Dr. Eileen Harbeck and Sarah Nitzos. We get her twice. Where is she? There. Ms. Subaki, would you like to take a roll call?
Yes. Dr. Goldman.
Here.
Ms. Cappy. Here. Mr. Benelos.
Here.
Ms. Canetta. Hello. Here. Mr. Martin.
Here.
Thank you.
And
So sorry, HR.
Sir, Casey, would you do the honors? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, let's begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then we did not have any reporting out of closed session this evening. And so now let's meet and we'll have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Joanne. Maybe do we have any supplemental comments? Before you move to public comments, it would be nice to take a vote on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Mr. Mayor. Do we have any public comments this evening?
We had. We didn't check. They dropped off. There's no one online, right?
Okay. Just for clarification.
Oh, we have one.
Oh, we do have,
Okay.
okay, we do.
Okay. And these are public comments for non-agenda.
Shush. Hello, good afternoon. My name is John Cosio, and my reason for my question is that recently Da Vinci Connect had an issue with parents not being told about what was it? Gender specific book read to 5-year-olds, and it caused a lot of issues within the parent community because the children got confused after that book was read to them. But my concern is that the parents were not even informed. And then we had a meeting with the director and the principal stood by her decision of not informing the parents. And will continue to do so in the future with the same books and the same agenda. Now, I understand the state allows this, but it's at the discretion of the district, the principal, and the teacher to read these inappropriate books to our younger children. Now, as a concerned parent, I spoke with the Whitesburg superintendent earlier, and she suggested that I join your board meeting.
Okay. Thank you for your comments and per
My concern is that I feel that the parents' rights were violated under the California law, as well as the child's right.
Again, for your comments, your comments are noted. Again, for board bylaws, we cannot respond to your comments. Thank you again. We have any other comments?
Nothing online.
Okay, thank you. That concludes public comments on the non-agenda items. We will now move forward to the special presentation. Number one.
I just want to clarify, I did not speak, I believe that an individual spoke to Wendy. Just for information about how to provide information for the board, but I didn't individually speak, to the gentleman. I just wanted to, just for the record.
Thank you for the clarification. And Blake, I guess I'll turn it over to you now. We have our special presentation number one, Sarah.
Hi,
Welcome.
Sarah is doing. So, you know, Sarah is a guru of many things, including arts and just, you know, at certain times during the year when we walk around our facilities, you know, see the art that's done by our kids. It's just really nice. And I've actually been able to tour with Sarah through it, and just the energy behind it is really, it's just infectious. So thank you, Sarah, for doing it. So, see the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Silvers. Good evening, members of the board, cabinet. Mr. Martinez, president. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm pleased this evening on behalf of all the wonderful, amazing teachers and art people that we have in our district to present to you just a small glimpse into what's going on in our schools. We have amazing staff, both our general teaching staff as well as our specific music teachers who are very, very gifted in the arts. So tonight we're going to provide just a little glimpse into what we're doing in the arts. We're having family art nights. We have some student experiences and student music. We have many partners on this road, including yourselves and the board. We have our communication with the Arts Ed Collective in collaboration with the Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture, our friends over at PS Arts, and of course, the Wiseman Education Foundation. I like numbers, so let's look at art by the numbers. Our total enrollment is at the top. 100% of all TK through 5th grade Wiseman students receive weekly music. In the middle school, second semester just got started, so I pulled these numbers down. You can see 133 of our students are enrolled in art. 223 students are enrolled in music in general of all kinds. And 87 students are enrolled in music and media production. At Dana, this represents an increase of 1 strings class and 2 music and media production classes.
Sarah, excuse me, so those numbers are discrete, they're not duplicated across the various, like 133 are in music. And that, is that the same 133 in orchestra?
No.
So it's a separate.
Correct, because they get 1 elective.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Good to know.
Family
Family art night. Family art night. We've had 2 family art nights so far. Each school gets 2. So this was Anza's first one, and they did a fine arts night. It's facilitated by PS Arts and funded by our LA County Arts Grant Initiative. Cabrillo had a family dance night. It was a lot of fun. I wish we had a picture of Lisa dancing up there as well. Again, facilitated by PS Arts and brought to us by the LA County Arts Grant. Cabrillo is also launching an initiative with their volunteers in collaboration with their PTA to do student hands-on art. It's led by parent docents that are trained that then go in with the kids and work on projects. Their latest one was focused on mixed media. They also did a post-it project, as you can see on the wall.
That's awesome.
Right? The mixed media is up in their cafeteria and it's really beautiful to behold. Here's our elementary music. Starting in 5th grade, every student is given the chance to play a violin that is provided free of charge through grant funds and through WEF. In 4th grade, every student works with a ukulele. In 3rd grade, the ever so popular recorder. And in 2nd and below, every student works with all kinds of music at a more fundamental level, including all sorts of percussion instruments, very popular xylophones, as you're seeing here. Although I'm sure Aiko would correct my use of the term xylophone. Music and media elective is something that Mr. Harwell has really been incubating and growing here at Weisburn. And I will let his words speak as to what it is. In music and media arts, students are harnessing the power of media to become the storytellers of tomorrow. I couldn't put it any better than that. Here's just a small glimpse into our orchestra, strings, concert orchestra, symphonic band, and introduction to ukulele. That is done by Ms. Redman and Mr. Harwell. Funded, of course, by WEF. You can see some of the brand new stand-up bass in the back there. That was a recent purchase with WEF funds. As well as the cello rack is off to the side. It's shaped like a cello. We had winter concerts back in person, and I know a lot of you got to visit those. This is just a sampling of some of our elementary school students showing their best school spirit for the holidays. And of course, our Dana Winter concert included members from our Da Vinci team, and we had Da Vinci collaborating with Weisburn in our winter concert that was held at Dana. Very well attended.
It was awesome.
It was amazing. Hey, so what's coming up? For future projects, we have more family arts night. Each campus, as I said, will have 2. And in the elementary schools, we're partnering with PS Arts to have a young artist workshop. An actual artist who will come to the school and do a project. They're still dreaming what that project's going to be. And it will be the same across all 3 elementary schools. The artist will go and stay at each school for a full day, and each child will get an experience where they will work with the artist to create a project that will be unified across our entire district. So every elementary school child will have the same experience. So again, thank you to all of our amazing partners and all of our amazing teachers who are working and administrators who are working to make this happen. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our custodial crew for cleaning up. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions.
I just want to say thank you, Sarah, for the presentation. The arts is alive and well at Weisburn, and I'm glad that we're touching all the grade levels. That's fantastic. Any other comments?
No, it's just, this is something that we've worked for and continue to support as a board, certainly as a community. So I'm really glad to know that it is so well received by the students, by the teaching community, and that we're able to provide. Thanks to WEF. Thanks very much to WEF, because I know that's been something they've supported the entire existence. So
And all those partners as well.
of course, as well. Thanks, thank you.
And thank you to yourselves for keeping this an important topic in Weisburn.
One more comment, if I may, really, I guess it's for you, Dr. Hasty, maybe with your presentation, the state, as we all know, passed legislation to add more money. I did read recently that the governor is amending his budget and may take money from that. What does that mean for us? Is that relevant to us? And any of these programs are moving forward. So thank you. Super excited to have artists. Thank you. Yes, I recognize all that. And at what risk are we, Dr. Hasty, when we get there moving forward? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have an answer for that?
I'm gonna assume we're talking about the arts instruction grant. So we're looking at it was proposed in the initial governor's budget that we're looking at about a 30% cut. So we've already, in our calculations, I'm just being safe and taking that 30% out. We're looking at building that plan around that. We had an initial allocation about 1.5. So if we're looking at 30%, we'll probably take that down to about $1 million right there. And we actually have in our we had our first installment, if you will, the actual cash was about 730. So we gotta watch it, and I know there'll probably be some revisions, as we all know.
I'm sorry, can you clarify the arts initiative, is that based on the new bond, I mean, the new ballot initiative that was passed?
No, I'm talking about the arts instruction and discretionary block grant.
Still more money we had before, so thank you.
Yes.
Presentation number 2.
All right. So we wanted to periodically or strategically throughout the year be able to present our progress towards some of our district priorities. So today, really focusing a majority of the time early on or midway through on our academic priorities, our student achievement goals. And so Dr. Harbeck will be sharing priorities 1 and 2, reading and mathematics. So Dr. Harbeck and Sarah.
Right, good evening. Thank you for allowing us time to talk to you about our student achievement. We're always happy to talk about it. We're excited about the progress we've made. So tonight, the report is actually in 2 parts. I'll be talking about data that's available publicly through the California dashboard. Ms. Nitzos will follow up with our more current in-house data from our Renaissance Star testing for math and for reading. So tonight's report really does look at how we're doing publicly through the dashboard. I'm the one that moves it. I'm not used to this. There we go. There we go. So just so you know, the California dashboard is available to everyone. It came out just about late December. This is late. We typically have gotten our scores back earlier and we've gotten the dashboard published earlier. But everything seemed delayed this year from the testing that happened last May in 2022. So the dashboard reflects data from last year, 2021 census day. That was our enrollment at the time of testing. We always like to look at our demographics when we're talking about achievement. So if you're talking about state accountability, yes.
So it's 2021 enrollment, not 22?
So the test was in May, that's a good question. May 22 was the test,
Right.
but the data that they put on the dashboard goes back to what's called census day, and that happens in October of 2021 for the school year. It's just how the state does it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're a little bit different this year in terms of, so when you see any dashboard, always understand it's the data from that year that the state collects through CalPATS. It's our reporting system.
Forgive me, I'm not understanding. So it's the data from the test in 2022,
Yes, that's what,
but the census number is 2021.
because it was the same school year.
Okay.
Yeah. Like from the same school year.
Okay, that's.
Right, that we work in school years around September. So the state accountability represents all students in Whitesburg grades 3 through 8 who have completed mandated state testing known as TASC, or the California Assessment for Student Performance and Progress. These reports and these tests are reflected as a type of accountability for schools and districts. It's open to the public, but it also works to talk about other outcomes, which I'll share with you tonight. So there are some changes in the dashboard. In the past, we've always looked at, when it started in 2017, we looked at how we were doing against ourselves. So once they set the baseline, and the next year they would average it out, and the next year they would average out and tell you if you increased or if you had higher or lower performance. So there was a gas gauge, if you remember, that told us if we were doing better or we were doing worse. It's almost like a golf game, you play against yourself. But because of our pause in testing through the pandemic, there was, we paused statewide, we didn't have that ability to do that kind of reflection. So we have to basically start over this year. So they've changed the accountability look from the gas gauge, or what you see at the top there, to purple bar charts. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight. There's no career college indicator. That would be for high school. And again, you can't reflect on the past.
The performance is referring to only the test score.
Only test scores. Okay. There's chronic absenteeism too, but I'll get there. So if we look at our English language arts from how we did statewide, or as a district-wide rather, we did pretty well. We had 32.5 points above standard. We're considered high district-wide in ELA on our students' performance. What the dashboard also provides is a glimpse at how our student groups did. So you can see below each bar where we were very high or where we were low. No very low students at all. So we did pretty well. If you look at those groups, this is data that we shared with our principals, that we studied with our staff. And in comparison, the state of California overall was 12.2 points below.
Dr. Harbeck, on the students with disabilities in English where they're low, is that typical, I guess? Like, would you expect them to be lower, or should they be, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to, I guess, understand what those mean in relation to themselves.
So this year is where we start again. This is our baseline. So no, we would never, want anybody in the low, and that's not an expectation for any of our students. But this is our baseline, so next year when these come out again, hopefully sooner than December, we'll hopefully see those that gauge go up.
Dr. Harvick, what does the term standard mean? 32.5 points above standard. What's that measuring? Is that the mean? Is that an average?
That's the mean, and that's where they set it for the state. That's where they average the entire state, and that's the standard they set. We don't set that.
Okay, so it's the average.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that. So in the state of California overall, it says low 12.2 below. Is that 12.2 below the?
Below standard.
Standard?
Mhm.
California average is 12.2 below, our average is 32.5 above.
Above.
So what do the points mean? What's the maximum number of points?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Sarah speak to that. She's spent much more time on it than I.
So they take the students who met or exceeded the grade level standard. And then every child who meets or exceeds the standard is assigned a point value of you were 5 points above, you were 7 points above, you were 20 points above. And then they average, and then they take the students who are below, and you're -7, and you're -5, and you're -3. And then they average all of those points to come up with our district points above standard. So that is the average of every single child above or below the standard to determine when they average all those kidlets out. Where we were 32 above the standard and the state was 12.2 below this.
So the standard is some value. It's also a calculation.
It's a
It's
calculation.
not an absolute value, like the standard is not 50% of the possible test score.
It's a scale score calculation, so I'm going to make up a number. 3,072, that is the bottom of meeting or exceeding 8th grade English. So if you are 300 and if you are above that, you get like 0.1, 0.2,
So it's a
0.3.
moving target. There's not a target that's considered standard.
It depends on the scale score that's set for each grade level. So it is a set target for
It is.
each grade level. And then they take that and our points go above or below.
But we don't know what that standard is. So to be 32.5 above a standard is sort of meaningless unless you know what this, it's so arbitrary, it sort of doesn't mean anything.
They have, I'll speak to that. They have in the past given us where the scale score marks are.
Okay.
But we have not.
So, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
one more thing. Is
Sorry.
the standard
All right,
meets or exceeds? Is that what we're calling the standard? Is it the average?
they,
Are the points just percentages?
this is what.
This is what we have and we're gonna go with it.
Yeah, this is what we received. I will say, if you would like, we come back for another presentation on Data Quest. And Data Quest is the cousin of the dashboard. And it allows you to look a little deeper at what you described, that circle, where you have high and so forth. It's just another way of looking at the same data.
So let me throw one thing out there,
Yeah.
to answer all this for us.
Okay.
We are looking at a point in time. And that's part of our challenge. We don't know relative to where we were. If we had a scoreboard, or scorecard that tracked performance over time, we would see if we're below or above where we were, which would give us context.
So we have it coming. That's part of our presentation. So we do, whereas, and I'm glad you brought that up, this is a point in time and it's once a year and it happened in May of 22. But I wanted to reference it tonight because it is available. It has a lot of great data and I would always invite the public to please take a look at it, including Data Quest.
Awesome.
All right, but let's move to math, which has the same questions involved. There it goes. So here in math, how did our students perform? We're 7 points below standard. And that shows up according to the ETS, the testing people, we are at medium. We have no very low students, higher number in our low, of course, and then medium and high. You can see that right there. Overall, the state 51.7 below. So, in general, and I can tell you that the same dashboards are available for every one of our schools, and you can see how they did individually with their subgroups or student groups.
And just to clarify, these are just K through 8 because the Da Vinci schools each have their own
This is 3 through 8. Yes, this doesn't include any high school. Okay. We do have to include some SLCs, of course, I take that back because there are some tested individuals with SLC. Chronic absenteeism is different. You reverse the bars. So if you're very low, that's good. And if you're very high, that's not good. You don't want to have many kids absent. So chronic absenteeism is 10%. If you're absent 10% of the year, we have 180 days in our school year, 18 days or more, you are considered chronically absent. They don't need to be consecutive. So we're at 10.8%. That's for K through 8 now. It's not 3rd through 8, so it expands to K. And you know, we have high absenteeism. The year before we were at 6.5%. I'm sorry, 2019 we were at 6.5%. We know that the COVID quarantine time, kids having to be out really impacted us. State 30%, very high.
I think one of the big things to think about is what is our recommendation last year, suggestion, actually requirement to some degree was that the student had the sniffles or felt sick at all, that they were staying home because, you know, that was the guidance we were receiving from all the health departments. So we were expecting to see this number to be a little higher than what it was previously and expected to go down this year.
So if a child was home, there was no distance learning alternative or other sort of school-related activity that we counted as the correct.
Yeah, they kind of excused absences and all of that. So it was all counted in. It's going to be 18 days out or more than 18. So we found that out because we actually dug very deep on this, trying to figure out what happened with our chronic absenteeism.
So it's 18 days out, including excused absences.
It's really just again, accountability. I think there are, and I'll speak openly, there are districts that struggle with attendance on an annual basis and have to incentivize students to come to school. Wyvern's not that district, but we did see it rise there.
So when students are, I mean, for example, a student that's chronically absent, what are some of the steps that we do to bring them back into and get them up to speed if they're missing so many days? Because that's tough, right? In some cases, it's not their choice. They might, well, they're sick, right? Or they're out for a reason or leaving and require them to go home. What are our measures? What are we doing to bring them back in to allow them to catch up as quickly as they can?
So at every point in their absence, there's a call home and a check-in to see what's going on with the child and encouragement to come back or advice on when to come back. At a certain point, there's a letter that goes out. And then again, at another point, we hold what's called a SART, which is school attendance review team. And that's for students who we see there's a problem growing. And that's when we gather and decide, you know, how can we support this child to come to school? Things get worse, it continues on, we can't seem to get them to school, it goes to a DART, that's a district attendance review team. And it can go all the way up to LAGO. It becomes really a huge problem with a student not being educated due to absence.
I'm gonna add a little bit more to that too. Just say one of the things that we're glad to have, and lucky to have, are a huge counseling team. And so as we start seeing some of those trends, you know, we're able to use our counselors as well to make contact with families. If we start seeing those trends going the wrong way, or a student that may be out for you know, a long period of time, and we just want to identify the reason. So, you know, administratively we handle it as well as we want to look social emotionally or supply our students out, and how can we support students that make it out longer.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being so proactive with that, because the last thing we want is at the end of the year to find out that the student was chronically absent and we didn't do our due diligence to bring them back in, but we are.
Yeah, I would say our office staffs work very hard on this as well, yeah.
Dr. Hartman, one quick question, that middle road there, can you go back to the previous, like that middle row there, those the groupings, does that pertain to Whitesburg, does that pertain to state
This is why,
Whitesburg, okay?
right, the student groups are all this.
So the state
Comparison.
absent comparison number is 30%.
Mhm. Yeah, and they really increased, if you can see 10% in 2019, 30% in 22. It's a disaster really for families and schools, but you know, everybody's coming back at
Thank you.
it. Yeah. So our English learner progress indicator, the LP, is a little bit different. Again, so they were considered medium on this. And this has to do with our students who have been in the program and receive or take the LPAC test. The LPAC is different than the CAP, really has to do with language acquisition. It's English Language Proficiency Assessment for California. The LPAC is given at the end of every year. Right now, we started actually the window for English language students, goes all the way through June. It's a very long test, and if they score a 4, they are considered making progress, or if after, or even if they go up 1 level. This is for children who have taken the test at least twice. So we're at 54.9% making progress. We were much higher in 2019 with 57.9. The state is at 50.3. So we're considered meeting.
Since it only tracks students who've taken it for 2 or more years, is there some additional percentage that we're missing because of the years when we didn't? Did they not offer this during COVID at some point?
No, we did. We tested the LPAC all through COVID. Correct, it happened all the way through.
They're already at the highest performance level and they stay there, but that's the showing progress.
If you have a 4, you're considered making progress. If you're at a 4, we of course are looking at what we call RPEPing, which is moving you out of the program. And so again, we'd love to come back and talk to you about that because we're so proud of how our students do when they leave the ELD program, having had all that support. They do very well in testing. Definitely. There we are. So we did some digging and we thought we'd look at a comparison statewide. There's about 1,000 school districts in California. We looked at the elementary school districts. We found 110 with an enrollment just above 2,500. We chose that number because there weren't enough elementary schools below 2,500 to really compare to. So 110 over at 25. It was an unduplicated rate. That's our free and reduced, our foster, and our homeless and foster, and our English learner students. 37 rate or higher, and we found that in that comparison at ELA we were number 2, and for math we were number 13. There's that LP again 54.9, which we talked about, and then chronic absenteeism we were at 2, which is you can imagine what other districts are going through.
So, I mean, let's take a moment here. At 110, we're number 2, number 13, and number 2.
Right.
Out of 110.
Right.
That's like the 98th percentile. That's fairly impressive.
In districts that have our same unduplicated student. Wow. No,
Sure.
Okay, so we think it's a valid comparison. And then what have we been doing? How have we been responding this year? So you've heard of much of this before from our principals as they've come through, so I won't reiterate it, but you know, there on the right, you can see there's math supports and there's also reading supports. They go hand in hand. Reading is a gateway skill. It's very important to our math program. And we have supports for our staff specific to their needs and also supports for our students all the way through. One thing that we have been highlighting this year has been the TCT for our teachers and using that math benchmark system, which Sarah will, since those will talk about on the bottom, really liking those tier 1 and 2 supports and tier 3 with the win time, our online programs. We're going to be reviewing it and I'll talk about that at our next slide. So where are we going? We're looking, we have started the movement to create a math committee here with our teachers, and that would involve representation from every grade level from our schools to identify a vision and mission for math in Whitesburg. As hard as our teachers have worked, the alignment is not as strong as we'd like to see. So we need a mission and an agreed upon vision for math. We also need to identify fully our grade level focus standards. This work started before the pandemic. In fact, it was our last PD day in March of 2020 that we actually pulled out those standards, tore them apart, unpacked them, and started to identify our essential standards. Our goal through the committee now is to take that good work, which we preserved, bring it back to the committee, and now align it through our schools. And then also look at all our materials. What are we using in the classroom, and using the data that Sarah has put together? You know, is it really valid? Are these the materials that we want to keep using? Then we're going to introduce hopefully a mathematics specialist next year. We are looking for someone to come in, support us with aligning our instruction, our learning, and our grading in the area of math. How are we doing this? We also are looking at potential supplemental materials. We use IXL now, we use STMath for quite a long time. We've been using these programs as well as STAR testing. I'll go back, look at those online resources, see if they are the best we can buy or purchase for our students and use for with our teachers. We're also looking at mathematics adoption next year for 23-24. I think I shared with you our faculty survey, very positive on this note. We truly do want a new adoption. And then we're also going to investigate additional personnel to support students in WIN, math, and reading, hopefully through some of that grant funding that we're receiving to help with learning loss. We'd like to see more boots on the ground.
So Eileen, just to clarify, so one of the, I guess, benefits of. Well, one of the benefits that we have now is that the learning loss money came in about $2.2 million. So some of what we're showing, we're gonna put together in a plan, bring back to you so you can see where this 2.2 million will be spent to be able to provide support mathematics and, looking at our textbooks, looking at the math specialists, et cetera. But it will be tied to this money that we were granted, that was a grant. So, it's not general fund dollars per se, it's money that we can actually put towards learning loss that we see happen, right? We see that there was a bit of a decrease in mathematics and we want to make sure we address that. So that's big, big push for us this year.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sarah Nissos at this time. Sarah has current benchmark data to share with you from some STAR testing that we just completed with our students.
Thank you, Dr. Harbeck. Good evening. I am excited to bring you our local assessment data. Just a refresher, the Renaissance Star, we have reading and math, and for our littles, we have early literacy. It's given 5 to 7 times a year, depending on the grade levels and our needs. It is a computer adaptive assessment that assesses a broad range of skills and identifies a continuum of reading and math strategies. The focus tonight is to provide you up-to-date information on our most recent benchmark screening. In September, I came and I brought you state and local assessment achievement data, which Dr. Harbeck nicely encapsulated with the publicly available dashboard. In December, I brought you student growth and overall progress data. Today, again, I'm bringing you student growth, overall progress data, and a little bit of crystal ball cast prediction. Just a refresher again, with the student growth percentile, Renaissance has such a huge national database, they're able to create student academic peers. They're able to see, based on a student's trajectory of all of their history of every test they've ever taken, as well as their grade level and other factors, what their peer group would be. Then they're able to compare them to typical peers and say, are they growing greater than that peer group, same as that peer group, or less than that peer group? In reading, in our most recent assessment, we have 62% of our students growing greater or typical than their grade alike peer or academic profile alike peers. But in math, it's 92%. In Weisburn, our students are growing. Let's look at how that plays out in the achievement world. This is our most recent math data. You can see the yellow bar is decreasing, which is what we want to see. That red bar is also decreasing, and that blue bar is increasing. We have about 3 months before we start state testing. We have another benchmark assessment. That next benchmark assessment will be the last one our 3rd through 8th grade students take, and that's where we'll really get a peek into what our future looks like. But because I promised, my crystal ball tells me, based on all of the historical evidence we have over the years, that we can add between 5 to 12 points to that blue bar. And that's where we will most likely be when we get our CASP data for math.
This is terrific.
Here, you can take a minute to soak it in. This is where we are in reading. Reading, we do see a little bit of a dip in the first semester. The students are taking a lot of end of semester assessments and they get a bit of testing fatigue. This is actually a historical pattern. We do see it go up at the March screening window. So we're looking for that. Again, crystal ball, because we've taken this test so many times, this one I can say it's between 10 to 13 points will be added to this bar. But the March data will be a much better predictor. Again, we have 3 months before state testing. We are embarking on something we normally do, but we're bringing it back, which is data review. Students complete that universal screener. We sit with the principals, we really go through the data, we dig through it. What are we learning? What do we know? Then the site administrators are sharing that with their guiding coalitions. The guiding coalitions then take that back and lead their grade level teams through a data process. where they're actually looking at the numbers, but more importantly, what do those numbers mean? And how can we make a difference and enrich the learning of our students? And then back around the circle we go. At our most recent data meeting, Renaissance was able to release the Nearpod connection. So the teachers are able to take the students' most recent scores, group them in grade and score alike groups. And from those groups, Renaissance pinpoints the median. You can see, oh, I'm gonna play with the laser pointer. It goes to the median of the little tiny bubbles on the colorful line up there, and it lays out what skills that these children in this group are ready for. You can see the little blue box around that lightning bolt. That means it's a focus skill. That means that skill is imperative for these children to get down pat before the next grade level. And off to the right, those colorful boxes are actual lessons. When the teacher clicks and opens it up, it leads them to a fully realized lesson that they can present to the children or just gather ideas to use on their own. Essential questions, visualizations, videos, real life investigations are all part of this resource. And all of the teachers are working through learning about this in their data mission. Our next steps, we have a very busy spring. In March, we will launch our physical education test with all of our 5th, 7th, and 9th graders. March 6th through 15th, we have the STAR benchmark for all K through 8. That will be the last one our 3rd through 8th graders take. In May, we start our CAST testing. You can see the grades impacted by that. Science comes back around as well. 5th grade has a lot up there, quite a lot. And we will continue doing our local benchmarking for all kinder through 2nd grade in both April and June. Not up there, as Dr. Harbeck wonderfully said, was our LPAC testing that is going on right now. I will open to any questions and thank you for your time. Yes, sir.
The question on the, I think it was like 17 or 19% who were not met, not exceeding, yeah, 19%. With this data, do we have any individual data that we can then target specifically needs for these students? And is there anything happening there?
Yes, I can say that all of the teachers, when they're sitting down and doing their data review, are looking at the different groups of students and then grouping them and using this data during their win time in order to really zero in on what skills do the children need. Rather than, well, they didn't do so well, let's try something. What do we need to try? These are the things we really need to hone in on to ensure the students can get to the next level and be successful in school.
Just add one more thing, that super excited to see this data. Math has long been a challenge for us. This is showing material gain in math. Doesn't mean we're there yet, but congratulations and thank you to the team because progress is being made.
So one of my concerns over time, especially with the math curriculum, is that we seem to give permission to people not to do as well in math as they do in their English studies. Oh, it's harder to teach. Oh, the teachers don't feel good. They feel better teaching English than math. And so on. So are we? Do you feel that we're sort of knocking into that assumption? Do you feel that the teachers are getting more confident with their math instruction? And are we offering them tools that they accept and are comfortable to use?
And I would say yes to all of it. Just in observing classes, observing grade level meetings yesterday at our campuses, the time is being used to look at data, to talk about math, and there's the angst of not teaching it, I think, is gone. And we have our principals who are hyper focused on math as well, along with reading, because I already touched on the fact that need for reading.
They go together,
So
no
important.
question, but
Yeah, and the CGI strategies, on that survey, again, very telling. There was a real big ask to bring that in a stronger way and make sure that's aligned across campuses so that that's happened. I will say we have a new consultant issue that's made a big difference too. From Momentum, they brought in Writers Workshop for us. We also have someone now coming in with CGI and working all the way through middle school. So very thankful to have that support for our staff and finding that there's a very big welcome to that guidance and support as well.
So that the instruction is exciting to the teachers. Because that enthusiasm, of course, will pass to the student. And also the expectation that you will do well. You can learn this. It is something important and it is something that you're capable to do. Or we're capable to do together.
I think the math committee is going to help all of us have that more overtly stated in terms of our math instruction.
I think that's really, really important. I mean, and I'm sure that as Neil pointed out, that some of that's happening because you don't improve. My feeling is you do improve when the relevant factors that contribute to that improvement are all happening. A lot of which is your expectation that you will succeed.
You know, I would just tag on to that the district's setting a priority on a dedicated math block and a dedicated reading block, dedicated WIN block has made a huge difference. The added time has alleviated a lot of pressure on teachers to have to fit everything in. I think it's been a good move. I've seen a lot of good things happening in those WIN classrooms. We were able to also go to another district and observe their challenges and their journey through this kind of added WIN time. So all of it encompassed, I would say there's a lot of energy toward this, a lot of good energy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I actually appreciated the data. I appreciated the slide though, that said how the Weisberg USD sites are responding. I think that really showed that it goes to the comment that Neil made, that's the progress that we're making. And then the follow-up slide to that, I know was focused and that's where we have work to do. I think aligning, we're gonna bring in a math specialist and aligning it district-wide. The only thing I was gonna ask you is I didn't notice the reading in there. Is that because we're more aligned already district-wide with the reading? Because I just seem to be focused on math.
The reading, I think reading's always been a strength for our district and, you know, we're aligned with writing completely now with Writers Workshop. With reading, we have the Wonders adoption that continues to be utilized across our district. There's some movement now to look at how we might go stronger with phonics in the younger grades and the littles and looking at that. So I would say there's always going to be an emphasis on reading because we know how important it is. Also, we dedicate a tremendous amount of support for intervention with reading at the lower grades. Our goal as a district is to have all students reading at grade level by the end of third grade. We want to really meet that commitment in the years to come.
I have a question that's not exactly related to this study and these numbers, but one of the elements you read about in education is that some of our younger students are so becoming so involved in various applications, maybe on their phones, on their computers, where there's snippets of information, there's very short attention span items that they are engaged in either for entertainment or maybe even for learning. Is that something that we're not way off the mark because it's not something you're prepared to talk about really, but is it something that you're noticing or have heard about any of that sort of from the teachers or from about the attention span or the ability of the students to focus, you know, as they're learning all these important things that we're just talking about?
Absolutely. We absolutely have. And the challenge is not to squelch it because it's out of the box. Everybody's using technology. It's going to continue and there's no stopping it. But to look at our instruction and how we're bringing it together. If you look at the workshop model and the use of mini lessons on a single learning target that goes forward with the students, very different from how we all began teaching when you had a full lesson plan and you were teaching top down. So we have small groups, we have come up to the carpet. I've watched it and it makes a huge difference. We've also utilized technology in our districts. You know, we have a one-to-one Chromebook district, which is outstanding. And so students can use these programs as needed in their rooms supplement to what they're doing with the workshop model. But I'll hang my hat on the workshop model. Makes a big difference for kids to move around the room, to work in small groups, to share their thinking, a lot of voice, a lot of sharing.
Great, thank you.
Very engaging. Thank you.
Thank you both. Move to the next item 8, reports and information, and from the board, and we're gonna start with Joanne. You guys haven't noticed, I'd like to change it up a little bit. Or Joanne.
Good to be ready.
Hello, everyone. I want to, thanks for the presentations. I am really excited about the learning and the technology, the graphics, the metrics, the information that you're presenting to us. Really, really appreciate that because it helps sort of the foundation for future decision-making, how we allocate funding, how we approach some of the special consulting or additional experts we'd like to bring into the district. Funding is not, is limited always. And so we're going to put our money where the most benefit will come. So this really helps us with that. Thank you. I wanted to say that I felt our agenda this evening touches just about every topic we could possibly care about right now. One is, of course, what we just heard about was the learning in the various disciplines in school. So that was really important. I was really interested also in the attendance rates. I think that's something that we, I know are paying close attention to. It ties to our ADA. I don't know exactly what those formulas are right now. I think we have some sort of station for how ADAs are actually calculated for a little while so that our funding is more predictable still. So maybe we can talk about that when as we go forward too, as with our attendance rates and that relationship now to how our ADA is calculated. I'm excited to, and I did read the reports from the schools on security, and I think there were some needs that were sort of universally mentioned by the different schools for campus physical security, for student and staff security. I'm really excited that our community passed our bond so that as we go forward with funding that bond and initiating some of the projects, we'll be able to work toward these improvements in security that our staff has identified. I also am not sure where the district IT security plan resides. I'm not sure we have one. And if so, I'd like to see it. And if we don't, I'd like to be sure we do have one. And I know that we talked about needing infrastructure improvements going forward with our IT security for data and so on. And data security in the way of metrics as well as the PII data, the personal information. And so I don't know exactly where we stand with that. I'd like to know that. I'm really glad we have CTE Studio items on the agenda this evening. Looking forward to making progress with that. And I'm not sure when we're going to have a budget committee meeting. I would like to see one of those very soon, even if we don't have the full committee. I believe Nelson and I are the representatives from the board to the budget committee. I would appreciate if we had just a meeting of ourselves with you, Dr. Hasty and Blake, and however you want to handle that, so that we start to really understand the numbers. We talk about it frequently at board meetings, but not separately. And I'd like to have a more a deep understanding of those numbers and how they're coming about and how we're going to proceed going forward. Just in part from the agenda items and these items that are really important to us, I had a chance to attend part of the Holly Bend Homeowners Association meeting this past Tuesday. We have a new interim police chief in the city of Hawthorne. He was very motivated, very dedicated, presented a lot of statistics as well for various types of police activity and so on in our community, which was really informative. And in general, I thought the community was very positive towards the district. the district is safe in general, as the chief of police was able, interim chief of police, he was very careful to say that. Because he's still waiting to be confirmed. And that was also encouraged, so, and I know Blake was there, I wasn't able to stay for the whole meeting, so I didn't hear Dr. Silver's briefing, but I think we'll hear it tonight. So anyway, that's it, thank you.
Rebecca?
Sure, thank you. So. See, I get to my notes, they're in the middle of it. So, it's National School Counselor Week this week, and today, as the plan goes, is Gratitude Thursday. And so I wanted to recognize the members of our care team and counseling staff across the district. At 138th Street, Julie Walker, at Anza, Alicia Hines, at Cabrillo, Anais Gutierrez, and at Dana, Megan Engie, Ted Kaczynski, and Gabriel Carlin. Thank you to Dr. Ingram for making sure that I got those names even pronounced correctly. So, but social and emotional learning is a key component of the curriculum within Wiseburn, and these counselors are providing critical mental health services as well as SEL resources for our students, our families, and our staff. So thank you to Dr. Ingram and the rest of the care team for continuing to build a culture of belonging within our schools alongside these counselors. So speaking of SEL, I also wanted to express my gratitude to two staff members who've gone above and beyond this year in my personal experience. Okay, here we go. So Rebecca Blake is a fourth grade teacher at 138th Street, and Karen Erico is the school psychologist at the same school. Mrs. Blake is an incredible educator who has taken considerable care to meet her students where they are, adapt to the challenges as they arise, and ensure that all of her students are seen as their whole selves in Ms. Erico is new to Wiseburn this year and has been an invaluable addition to the team at 138th Street. She's gone out of her way to get to know the students she serves, to find ways to meet their individual needs in ways that are compassionate and important for their growth and development. Both Mrs. Blake and Ms. Erico are collaborative and kind and always thinking of how they can best serve the needs of their students. Including forging those critical lines of homeschool communication, offering new and unique learning opportunities for their students, and being a safe space for the students in their care. So I'm gonna make it through one of these things without crying. One of these weeks it's gonna happen, and y'all are gonna be like, wow. All right, so I just wanted to say thank you to both of them as we think about all of that this week. So finally, I know this evening we'll be adopting a resolution recognizing Black History Month, and I appreciate that we're noting in the resolution that we should not be just teaching Black history during the shortest month of the year. Black history and Black people belong year round. It's crucial that we give language to our children, tools and context so that they can ask questions and have conversations about Black history, race, racism, and all of the things that go along with it. And I also want to celebrate Black joy and successes, along with teaching about the ugliness of slavery and Jim Crow and all of those other things. So toward that end, I also want to recognize and appreciate the Black women and men who are our local elected officials. The Honorable Maxine Waters, who represents us in the U.S. House of Representatives, the Honorable Tina McKinnon, who represents us in the California State Assembly, the Honorable Stephen Bradford, who represents us in the California State Senate, and the Honorable Holly J. Mitchell, who represents us on the LA County Board of Supervisors. We in Wiseburn happen to be lucky that all of our local elected officials are Black men and women who serve us with great distinction. And so just wanted to add that to the recognition that we have today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. And to your point, Supervisor Mitchell attended our Delaware Neighborhood Association, got the chance to hear her and her engagement there. So appreciation to her and her team. I was thrilled to see the presentation tonight. Thank you. And the progress that we're making. Dr. Silvers, we have talked about the strategic foundation again building. I was privileged to be involved in us developing the pillars. The pillars are one of 5 steps in the process. And I'm excited to talk to Dr. Silvers about picking up the rest of those steps, which include our vision, Our mission is developed, we have two, we have the mission, we have the pillars, we still need the target to some extent, the vision and the values. And we're developing a process to make those happen, to move us forward. We call those the strategic foundation for the organization, and they help us make decisions and build to the future. One of those things is the vision, determining where we're going. The other that I mentioned, Dr. Silvers, is something I like to call the up or ultimate priority, which is the 6 to 12 month priority. But what's the most important thing that can move our organization up? That's the ultimate priority idea. I would argue that we are on target with that with math. Math will have a halo effect of bringing us up with the rest of everything else we do. So I think that is the appropriate focus. I'm pleased we're doing that. I obviously want to see us continuing in that direction. Also, one thing, as I mentioned, I didn't mean to do it in a snarky way, my apologies, was to see continuing trending. And I know we've talked over the years about scorecards. I'd like to see us even just start with that which is on the SART. All those elements, the fit, the performance indicators, the safety, all of that can be trended over time. It would be useful for us to have the context of the trend, to see the last 5 years or the last 10 years, or however long we've been doing this, really gives us an understanding, are we moving in the right direction? Because a point is a point, but a trend is a line of information. And obviously you want to see those lines go up. As to the safety plans, thank you, Joanne, for mentioning those. We've talked about this a little bit in the past, and one thing I thoroughly done, impressively done. One thing that we talked about was having each school site, and I don't know where we are on this, this is a question. Is there an emergency laminated card that says, in the case of this urgency, don't go to page 27 of the school safety plan. Here's what you do. If we don't have that, please let's have that.
Ask that question.
Jonathan, do we have that yet?
We have a utility emergency shut off, but as far as like drills for an event of like I say shooter scenario, we do not, but in terms of facilities, we do.
So when I think of our pillars and our assurances, safety is number one. This is it. This is a directive to us.
Could you send us or have Blake or Wendy send us the one pagers that each of the schools are able to post in their office?
Yes.
I'd really like to see that. Thank you. Sorry, Neil.
No, I appreciate it.
For an emergency, in the case of an emergency and you need to call the police, what's the number that you call from Anza? What's the number that you call from Dana? If you need the fire department, how do you reach those people immediately? What do you do if you're the teacher in the office when that happens? How do you know if there's an earthquake and you happen to be in the school office at that time? What do you do with that? Whom do you call? What number do you call? How do you do that? What if you don't have your cell phone and you can't call from the cell phone? What do you do? So I have requested several months ago that each school office have this one pager laminated in the school office. And I'd like to see what those look like. I'd like to see that. Thank you.
All right. So again, safety, one of our pillars, fantastic. School, student centered, future ready. To me, that's math. That's the mandate there. Relative to math is financial education. Which again, I'd like to continue that conversation of bringing financial education in. There's something we did a few years ago that I don't know if it's still on our radar, but we really asked that we do it again. And that's Bite of the Reality. Connect brought that in. I don't know if we're doing that again this year. I know COVID kind of put a halt to everything. That is a magical experience for the kids. We got to do it together and saw that. I don't know if we're planning to do that, but can we do that again, please? Last thing, relative actually to our comment, this as we open today, the public comment, I am scheduled to meet with the Connect team, taking a visit to Connect, always be connected with our schools. And I'm doing that tomorrow morning. I don't know if anybody is interested or available to do that. I should have made that available to you, but I would imagine Michelle would be open to having at least one more of us do that if anybody has time. That's it for me. Thank you.
I was gonna say thank you for those snarky comments.
I apologize.
Kidding. Roger?
All right, thank you, Nelson. I have two comments. First, I just wanted to say thank you for the presentations today with regards to our teaching and learning. As I was continuing to to think of the information that was presented to us, I was reflecting on the chronic absenteeism. And I also realized that applies to our students. But we also have teachers that are allowed vacation days and sick time, and they were also impacted by COVID. And when they're out of the classroom, we have to bring in substitute teachers. Have we thought of a support structure for to kind of bridge that gap when they're out of the classroom as well? I know that at Da Vinci recently, they actually hired a permanent substitute teacher that's kind of like a roper, but it's like it's an actual full-time staff person or teacher that is there at the district. I don't know if we have something like that where a substitute teacher can fill in multiple classrooms to create that consistency within the project, or I'm sorry, the classroom, and they don't leave. Because sometimes when you call that substitute or that number, you might get somebody different. So I'd like to see what that would look like, and if that could be studied on the "what are we doing" column in the presentation, if that has merit, there is something that we can implement as well. Also, because it would serve really as a support structure as well for our teachers, and really the continuity of the learning. Because if we have someone that's there, that they can, on a more regular basis, I think that would be very useful as well. So if we could please look into that. Then the last item that I have is that we've had 2 facility subcommittee meetings so far. So we're making a lot of headway and progress on facility subcommittee with regards to our bond. We do have an RFQ out for program management services. And Blake, I believe those responses are due to the district on the 17th, that's right, February 17th. So looking forward to a lot more to come with facilities and improvements. Very timely as well, Joanne, with your comments on the safety and security from the reports that we see today. Looking forward to really integrating those reports into our meetings and facilities and see how we can address those issues. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. So as Joanne mentioned, our agenda is relatively small, but we have a lot of big points that we've discussed tonight, right? And I think that most of my colleagues have captured any of the comments that I would share today. So I really have no further comments with the exception of one, and I wanted to thank Dr. Silvers, Wendy, and the cabinet. I know on behalf of the board, we really appreciate everything you're doing with regards to the agenda and the supporting information. I know it's coming earlier to us, and it's helping us tremendously. So I just wanted to thank you because I know it's a lot more work on all of your end. So thank you very much. And that's all I have today. And then I'll turn it over to Dr. Silvers for district leadership reports, who gets to present that. Please. We'll introduce who's going to present that.
So it's just me.
Oh, thanks. So we're going straight to the superintendent report. Okay.
But I'm gonna have to go up because I live in the chair on her report, so I'm gonna go there. I think we have presentation sound. Is it the same? Do I use the clicker? So as Joanne shared, I had an opportunity to join the Holly Glen Neighborhood Association and really set the stage for district priorities, not only related to our achievement, student achievement, and student experience, but also related to the next step for our for Measure EE for the bond dollars. And just to capture it, right now we are in the midst of submitting all the paperwork, managing all that paperwork so that we could bring to the board, I believe on March 23rd, we're targeting that March 23rd date to bring a resolution to the board so that we can actually initiate the draw. And expected time, probably May, we're looking at early to mid-May that we would receive our first funds, and we'll have to work on that as a team here as to what that number looks like, but we're targeting that $30 million mark right now, and we'll obviously continue that conversation. All right, so it has a little bit of a lag. So just as we were setting, so as we were setting the stage here, we were taking a look at our priorities, and just wanted to sort of capture our priorities are going to move across our district, looking from ANZA, obviously, through our DV schools, and just taking a look. So there's a lot of sites that we're going to have to address, and a lot of things we're going to have to address as we move forward. Obviously, we heard security. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, current enrollment 2491, looking 588 at ANZA, 477, 434, 138, 970 at Dana Middle School, and then Success Learning Center at 21. But we're wanting to focus more on those, oh, it does work a little, huh? Okay. So wanted to, it didn't work in the previous, so wanted to take a look there at some of our demographic information. I think that's really important, just so we can capture some context. Take a look, with 53% Hispanic, 12.9% Black, 16.58% white, and then smattering of the rest. But looking over there to our English language learners at 12, students with disabilities at 13%, up about 3% over the last 4 or 5 years. And then 30% with students with socioeconomically disadvantaged. Those are students that have identified through different means that they fall below the poverty line.
That's like 5% lower than the last number that we saw in that.
It was, and there was a reason for, we talked about that. What was the reason for the difference? Eileen, I forget. You told me about this. Yeah.
It was 34.9.
Yeah, it has to do with how many enrollment forms we received and who qualified, so it was down.
Is it because we now have free breakfast and lunch?
Yeah,
that
we
you
feel
can
like the,
expand?
right, the incentive to fill out that form just isn't as strong. We have some plans for next year on doing things a little differently in our district and how we collect those forms and incentivize families to go ahead and complete them, so we feel like we have a good plan.
That is material to supplemental funds, so, yeah.
Title I.
Yeah, they actually extended the deadline for supplemental, so we actually have more in that than we did in the initial number that they collected for free and reduced lunch. It's just a funding, the way so they, sorry, go down this graph. For free and reduced lunch, they had one deadline, and that is for our Title I money. And then they extended the deadline, the state, or the feds, to November, and allowed us to collect more forms, which we did for our supplemental funding, separate funding. So that's how it's working this year. It's a little different.
And it's still only this 30%
Yes.
as opposed to the 35.
Oh, okay. So just wanted to also share with the board that we have had enrollment open here in the district for quite some time. Eileen and Alicia Galindo at the district office, thanks to Erica for helping with some of the materials we've been sending out, really trying to push our enrollment and doing a good job right now. And so I did share with the Holly Glen Neighborhood Association, so please sign up. You know, we want to get our families enrolled and our students enrolled as soon as possible. Helps for planning and also helps secure, classrooms and all of that. And then looking at our priorities, just to revisit our district priorities, I shared this with the board earlier, probably in August, but to the right, the blue boxes would capture the major categories of our priorities. First in teaching and learning, then below that, student safety and wellness. This isn't in the order of priority, it's just that these are the 3 priority areas. And then organizational strength there at the end. And these are our initiatives, and what we wanted to do from here is create these measurable and achievable goals so that we can monitor this throughout the year, how to have a better understanding of where we fall at the end of the year. And in writing, these are our 5 priorities for the district. In teaching and learning, we have our first priorities around English language arts, reading and writing, really focusing on our workshop model that Eileen shared just a few minutes ago. Priority 2 is our student achievement in mathematics. Cognitively guided instruction has been our learning strategy. And, that's obviously come to the top. I mean, it's something that we really need to look at and focus on in the upcoming year. And then priority 3, in this year and the upcoming year, always. Priority 3 there is student achievement in science, as we rolled out our new textbook adoption with the help of Joanne Michael, who's really been supportive of the science curriculum and supporting that rollout. It's definitely been a priority for us this year. Priority 4 is looking at school site safety and engaging students to have a connection. And this goes along the lines with Dr. Ingram and the work that she's done with our counselors. And I'm just really happy to say that, our district of call it 2,500 students, has 7 mental health experts in our schools are really out there working and collaborating with students and with families. And that's just a real kudos to Dr. Ingram and the team. I know it's National Counselor recognition. Am I calling it the right thing? Yeah. National Counselor Recognition Week. And so I think this is really a good time to thank them for the work that they do. Always good work. Priority 5 is ensuring that the district demonstrates organizational strength, really focusing this on our business office practices. We were going through as Greg Magnuson was here and helping us start developing some different systems to track our funding and to be able to account for our funding. working on that. So that's been a year in progress. I mean, it's something that we're working on still, and with Dr. Hasty on board, we're able to start aligning that and seeing some progress there as well. So really, really excited about the work that we're doing. And then moving on to facilities, again, Jonathan is here. There he is. Jonathan's here. So, thank you for his leadership there on our facilities. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the bond, and this is a 20, well, it's a future ready classroom to some degree. This was a classroom in this picture that's at Dana Middle School. And it was from a grant through Steelcase. This was like cutting edge when it came out. Was it 8 years ago or something like that? This was it. The desks that fit together, and the chairs have wheels. You could actually move them around the room in different heights and all of that. Well, still very, very much the way that we want to go in our learning environments, but obviously there's just so many different options now that we want to explore moving forward with our Measure EE funds. And just as a recap, Measure EE needed a 55% plus one vote. It passed, obviously, talking about that, and the cost is $30 per 100,000 in assessed value. Funds are specifically meant to address our facilities needs. And so we're going to work on that. And really kudos to the board for the work that you allowed us to do to put together the facilities master plan. That's going to serve as a beacon for us as we move forward, start planning and prioritizing the projects. But part of that was, as part of the master plan, was identifying some of our top priorities. So we see at the top safety and security, and we see camera systems there on the right, the picture of the camera systems there on the right. We've also had opportunities to look at, to meet with some vendors that with new camera systems or more robust camera systems, more future focused camera systems, and then also access to the schools. That's been a big deal for us. I know we've talked about this as a board, but how are people coming in and out of not only our front offices, but also our classroom doors, our gates? Everything needs to be evaluated from a safety and security standpoint, and we're going to have to look to allocate some money to that. Administration and counseling offices at 138th and Anza, and obviously 138th being a very, very old, a much older facility and needing a little bit more of it actually needs a renovation. I was going to say something light, but it's really a renovation so that so the purpose of that office can be reestablished and redefined for counseling services and special education services, et cetera, and administrators. And then technology and network infrastructure, which I miss exterior play spaces. Can't miss that. Exterior play spaces, play field. We have an empty lot on 135th and Aviation. We have a berm here at Weisman High School that we need to address. So there's several areas that we really want to look to address over the next, next probably sooner than later, so that we can clear those areas and make them useful to our community. And then last is technology network infrastructure, definitely not least. Thank you to Amir for coming on and really diving into what we have, which probably needs to go, and what we need, really needing to redefine, and restructure our network and our IT. So Joanne, you asked a little bit about what you asked, about our IT safety. That's a huge area of concern for us. It's a huge area of need. Amir has just finished putting together a full plan for a network, for network safety. We do plan on calling the technology committee very soon so that we could actually convene and share those plans and be able to have an open dialogue about that. So looking forward to that too. Target date is August, that we'd be able to roll out a new network, that we'd be able to have servers on site that are, I don't want to start throwing out names of things, I'll mess it up, but that we would have this network set. Servers is what I know. But really looking to do that and have a target date, and I think we're on goal for that target date, right? Yes, we are. We're getting close. And then looking at just some of the highlights, I just wanted to show as things have evolved. Remember, we did two master plan updates. We did two master plans. We adopted one initially, COVID hit, and then we had to re-adopt it again, and had some changes. So one of the major changes, I kind of feel like walking over there. One of the major changes is up there on the right. This isn't really working that well. I'm like pointing over here. Okay. I'll just say I guess that's the east side of the play field there. You see the TK buildings. That's an if needed. And so that's where the district, after thinking and really trying to identify our need in TK, said if we have more TK students than we can currently house, we would then have to look at a space on the south side of the east side of the Cabrillo playground there and add some TK spaces. So that was one of the changes that came out in the master plan. And then extending the play field a little bit so we don't lose that green area for the students. And then we have STEM labs and collaboration labs. That was all part of our first iteration. Obviously, Cabrillo is it's the newest of the facilities other than high school. And so it actually, not much to upgrade there. We do have a maker space, STEM lab, and then a little bit of a library upgrade. Okay, and then we're looking here at 138th. 138th, again, you can see at the very bottom, it's in blue, it's surrounded in blue there. That's the admin building. That's a full rebuild, pretty much a knockdown rebuild to look at the flow of office space and people walking through. Thank you, Dr. Goldman. I'll try and get I kind of learned how to point it in the opposite direction to get it there. And then play field upgrades are there, as well as doing some major modernization of classrooms, adding a music building, getting rid of those portables that are currently back here, and then recreating some more permanent spaces. And this is Anza. Anza is, again, when you see those white X's on the master plan, basically means they're being left alone. So you could see some upgrades to the PAC, the multi-purpose room. Here you also would see maybe some redefining of the CDC. But again, really, Anza's in a good place. We'd be adding our STEM lab, and we'd be upgrading our library, upgrading our PAC, and then some of the harder, some of the more deferred or capital projects would be like a roof, looking at HVAC and roof, as well as some security. Sorry.
Safety wall next to parking?
Safety wall. I was gonna, are you seeing? What are you saying?
The yellow line is, right?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna get to that. Are you talking about the yellow dotted line?
Yes.
Yes. So we have some safety. This is the only part of our school district that's actually where the classrooms open publicly. They open to a public area. So this would be kind of restructuring what that looks like. We don't know what that would look like. We work with an architect to have some sort of security fence or yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe, yeah. To put there and protect the kids. Really want to enclose that more than anything, so that it's safe. Kids walk out of the room, they're actually in an enclosure, not necessarily out in a public facing area. So looking there at that. And we also have this yellow area, here, which is really wanting to look at all of our school sites and look at ingress and egress, and how we can make for a safer ingress and egress at all of our school sites. Dana Middle School, big looking at the field, restructuring this field, looking at a turf option potentially. We see that we actually increased our music space here. That was one of the additions in the upgrade or the update, is doubling that music. And I think you saw from Sarah's presentation, so it's fitting that we're talking about this now, that because students from TK to 5 have music, and because from 3rd grade, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are all playing instrumental music in some capacity, the popularity of music is going to increase in the district, and the level of music is going to only improve in the district. It's great now, and it'll be great term in the future. So I'm looking to expand that. Also over here, one of the changes was the PLTW room, and Mr. Dessert has run out of space. I mean, there's just a lot of tools and pieces and parts and students, and we need to be able to fit those things. And so looking at some ways, I know Nelson and Dr. Goldman, we walked the site and kind of looked at different options that we may be able to advocate for as well. And then the Dana West, this Dana West field here is a real multi-purpose field. I mean, this is about as multi-purpose as you can get. So, I mean, it's equipped with softball. It's equipped there down below here. You could actually see this is like a Little League potential for Little League baseball to be played here. And again, Little League can be played here as well. And then you also have a soccer field for U8 going, I guess that would be north to south. Then you have a CIF sanctioned soccer field going this way. So just a lot of green space for people to play a lot of different sports. So definitely want to, engage with the architects on the design of that.
What an archery you got from.
Sorry, Sarah.
And over here, we actually have, and this will be the final rendering, and this would be the CIF baseball and CIF softball field, and they'd be at the Del Airs facility. Included batting cages in here. These are batting cages down here for both sides. You have dugouts. equipment rooms and all of that. So this is another, this was part of the original plan with a few little adjustments. And then if there are any questions or people want more information, we do put this on the website. So this is just a quick QR code to go to our master plan. So, you know, if there's it's there. And then last, the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So we did at the last board meeting, this board approved the restated bylaws for that. Passed a resolution so that we can actually begin the process. We're going to wait for the program manager to be on board so we can do that together. But really, it's a very important part of this process is selecting these folks to do that. They are appointed by the trustees, by you all. And their job is really to provide feedback, but also to just be sure that the expenditures that we're doing, that by our expenditures, that they're aligned with bond language and the project list. So that's really part of that dialogue that would happen between the oversight committee and the district. And they're, again, to provide information to the greater community. They're going to be assets to the district and the community to share what's going on to support us. And then these are the 7 members. It's a parent guardian community, the business community, the senior citizen community, neighborhood associations, school-based organizations, and at-large community members. What I didn't put on here that I should have is there's one of the is a tax-based organization. And so we actually have to add that on here. We'll put it on before we post it. So that's going to be a more complicated member to find, but we'll work with some of our members. Maybe someone can sign up for one of those organizations to be a part of this. So we'll work on that. And that's it. Just a few slides.
So we took from all of
That's
that,
all we have to do.
August. That's what we said.
What did I say was happening in August? No, I said network in August.
Good stuff.
All right.
This year.
Any questions?
Like, is that it for you?
That's it for my, oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm gonna run back here. I did talk about IT security, you know, I wanted to do that, and I also wanted to, you know, say, I know there was a mention about the budget. So Dr. Hasty and I have talked about, you know, we're waiting for the NYP to come out, we're preparing second interim. So we thought right when that comes out, I think we're expecting the next couple of weeks. So we can get some, maybe identify a time, we can talk to Carolyn maybe and see when that NYP will be out. That would be the most useful tool for the budget committee. So in the next few days, maybe we can set a meeting, you know, and it'll be down the road a few weeks just to get, to review that NYP, the multi-year projections. So thought I'd do that. Again, I did mention Counselors Week, but wanted to definitely my hats off to our counseling team and Dr. Ingram for the work they're doing. That's it.
That's all I have today. Thank you. Thank you, Blake. Wonderful presentation. Next item is consent items. A reminder for everybody is consent items are routine in nature. Do I have a motion for items 10.1 through is it 10.10?
So moved.
Right, thank you, Neil.
Second.
Thank you, Roger. All in favor?
Aye.
A point of inquiry, one of the items. On the calendar, on the budget calendar, I noticed there's like 2 LCAP committee meetings that will include parents. And I just was curious how many we previously had done, like pre-COVID, and whether that was similar number of meetings that involve parents or.
That's on.
Oh, thank you. So the previous meetings were also built around a new LCAP. So the LCAP's a 3-year plan. So when you initiate an LCAP and you develop a brand new LCAP, it takes far more committee meetings to do that. In these subsequent years where we're making tweaks and revising, we do have less meetings, but I expand out by going to the PTAs. Been to 2 this week where we talked to them and gather input. And then of course we level that out with the surveys that go to staff and the students and the community.
I would say I appreciate that comment too, because it brings this is a new process that we've gone through to put together a budget and LCAP calendar. Just for overall transparency and planning, we just thought it would be a good way to track the year for anybody that want to track our year.
It's readable too.
It's readable.
No, it's very helpful to see the, you know, where the community engagement would be, since that's the whole point to the LCAP, right, is to get better engagement from the community stakeholders, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Will this be posted?
It's a good question, Dr. Goldman. Sure, we should post it on our website, yeah. I didn't even think that, I have to say, I did not think that far down the line, but yes, that should be posted. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor for 10.1 through 10.10, I'll take you to the vote.
Aye.
Fantastic. And I must thank Roger here. He's keeping me in check tonight. I just get right over to public comment on agenda items. We're going back, Wendy. Are there any public comments on it? It's part of the looks, isn't it? I'm staring right at it. That's where you have it.
I have no public
Thank you. Comments, we will now go to second here. Now we're going to item 11, major action items. And the first one is the 2022 school accountability report cards. I don't know why I always want to say student accountability report cards, but it's what is known as the SARC. And as many of you know, for at least for the public information, SARC is a report that's required by the state of California, and each school is responsible to publish this in February of each year. And so we have quite a bit of schools, obviously, that have developed that, a lot of work went into it. And really, it's a great report. I encourage the public to take a look at it. I believe we publish it on the website. It talks about the condition and the performance of the schools, all under really the local classroom funding formula. So please take a look at it. It's a great report that summarizes each of the respective schools. And so I also want to take this opportunity to thank each of the school principals. There's a lot of work that went into it. Blake just talked about the bond. If you take a look at the master report and some of the comments that the principals made at each of the respective schools, it really aligns in terms of some of the projects that we need to do with those respective schools. So with that, do I have a motion on item 11.1?
Motion.
Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor? I do have a question. Yes.
In the presentation, it talks, or the item, it talks that the California Department of Education is going to be providing additional information. Many of the tables are actually blank, because we as advisory did not receive that from the state. And so sections of these reports are blank. Do we have an anticipated date of when we will receive that, so we can republish that to the community? No, we don't have that yet. So is it the recommendation that we publish them missing that information?
We have to.
Complete.
We have to publish them even without, that's why we have that statement. And then we'll come back when they're ready, when they're updated.
Okay, so we're publishing. what
We don't have to
have.
get them approved a second time, just this.
Okay, but we will republish once we get the balance of the information. Okay.
Maybe just gonna bring it back as like a review item or something.
And I just want to point out too, they are translated into Spanish.
Great, okay, thank you.
Well, what's interesting is the agenda item says we're reviewing the SARC. Are we moving it? What are we?
So it has to come I'm sorry, I misstated. Apparently they have to come before the board. As part of the process.
Okay,
So no action.
so we don't have an action. No.
We don't need to show in the minutes any action items.
That's not. I thought they had to be.
I thought you have to approve.
I thought they had to be approved too.
Yeah, we've done it every year in the
I think
past.
You have to approve it.
No, I was just gonna Google it, but yeah.
But I don't.
So we're moving to approve with the limited data available.
That is,
Yes, and I think there's already, oh, so we would need to rescind the motion?
No, that was the original motion. I mean, that's what's stated. That's how I read it, is that we are being asked to approve with the limited data that's available, and that an update will be provided at a later date. So we're moving to approve just as. That's the motion on the table.
We already have a second.
Who was, for my purposes, who was the motion?
Rebecca was the second.
Rebecca.
Joanne was the motion.
Joanne was. Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Go to item 11.2, approve the comprehensive safe school plans for 22-23 school year. This is commented in Joanne.
Yeah, sure. Whole motion.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is the adopt resolution number 22/23.13, celebrating February as Black History Month. And Blake, are you gonna do the honors there and read the resolution?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have it. Thanks. Wiseman Unified School District Resolution number 22-23.13. A resolution of Wiseman Unified School District proclaiming February Black History Month, also known as African American History Month. Whereas each year during the month of February, the citizens of the United States celebrate Black History Month, also referred to as African American History Month, and the actions, words, and achievements of so many African Americans who have contributed to the success and prosperity of the United States. And whereas National Black History Month is a national tradition established in response to the inadequate and oftentimes biased depiction of Black history and African American communities in history books and school curricula of the era. And whereas African Americans helped develop our nation in countless ways, those recognized, unrecognized, and unrecorded. And whereas African Americans have enriched our society through their commitment to promoting fairness, equality, and justice for all. And whereas August 2019 marked 400 years since the first arrival of Africans to present-day America, and the United States Congress established the 400 Years of African American History Commission to commemorate the historic heritage and active contributions that Americans of African descent have made to help shape the cultural, academic, social, economic, and moral attributes of this nation. And whereas in spite of the African slave trade that created an institution of white supremacy in the nation, Africans and African Americans have nonetheless continued to persevere and move forward in society, fighting for their freedom and also for the freedom of all Americans over time. And whereas not only during the month of February, but throughout the remainder of this year, it is important that we as a district seek to understand how to thoughtfully and holistically address African American disparities in information sharing and outcomes in order to move towards greater equity in our educational system and the greater community. Whereas African American History Month commemorates and celebrates the many different achievements of African Americans, whether that be in academic pursuits, business, fine arts, political action, and science. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Wiseburn Unified School District does hereby declare the month of February as Black History Month in our schools and invites everyone to reflect on ways we all can live, work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding.
You're here.
Thank you, Blake. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the resolution, to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Neil. All in favor?
I just want to say thank you again to Dr. Silvers and Dr. Ingram for continuing to put forward the list of resolutions for us to consider. So looking forward to reviewing that at a future meeting.
Next item is action item on facilities. This is for the proposed delivery method for the lease-back project for the Career Technical Education Program grant applied by DV Schools through Wiseburn Unified School District. And as many of you are aware, there was a wonderful presentation by Steve Wallace. It was presented last meeting. So do I have a motion?
Yes. I would love to move that item.
And if it's okay, I would like to second that, if it's okay with my colleagues. You bet. Like to second that, and all in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you again, Steve and team for all the work there. So thank you. Let's go and make sure. Okay, next item is item 13, fiscal action item. And this has to do with the waiver submission for Title I. I think is, and this is for school-wide program for 138th and Data Middle School. And we have to request this waiver because I believe we're below the 40%. I believe that's the threshold, Blake. And I think it's mentioned earlier, we're at 30%. Is that correct?
Is that just, yeah,
Yeah,
You don't
that's
need it.
true.
Okay.
If you, we have to have your board approval to go school-wide, or else it just changes how we address the Title I manual.
Fantastic. So do I have a motion?
So moved with a point also, just I appreciate the comment of reaching out as we're we're probably underreporting this number. And I think it is material, I think Dr. Hasty could comment on, this is a material number that we're underreporting as a result of the revenue to our district or the funds to our district. So any efforts we can raise that to be more reflective of accuracy would be appreciated.
I think you want to share just what we do.
Do you need a second on the motion first?
Oh, are we on?
I made it first. And then-
Motion, do a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thanks, Rebecca. And
You want to share what we do to get families to fill out? I know there's quite an effort.
Well, it is an effort, it's calling, and, you know, there are legal repercussions here. You cannot, trying to think of the right word, you can't solicit or recruit. It's inappropriate and it's illegal. So it really is a sensitive issue to talk about somebody's income. So in the past, we've sent it out with the first aid packet, which is quite large. And there's a lot of forms and families have a lot to deal with, especially with vaccination and just getting everything to the school. So this year, what we're doing, we're working with Dana Middle School and the other schools to make sure that everything's in place so we can send it out as a solo item in July. And in that way, families have more time, and it'll be more specific and a single item for them to look at and fill out. Remember, there's two forms. They fill out that form for us, and then if you do a federal form, they have to complete. So we're gonna have time during the summer, then we make the calls to families. If we know that they qualified before and didn't apply, we want to make sure they have the advantage. This year, we do have an after-school program that parents can have access to should they provide a form that is within the limits of the income. So that would be a great boon for families that need that after-school program up through 6th grade.
I think in other school districts, I've seen like the Education Foundation work with the district to help provide incentives to identify. So I'm just curious if that's something that
I have not done that, but we want to be very careful with that too.
As we should, thank you.
Dr. Hartnett, I have a motion for, sorry.
I have a couple
Go ahead,
questions. I'd like to further my understanding on Title I and like funding, so maybe in a future presentation. If you can come back to the board and make a presentation as to like the stipulations of Title I funding and what are the requirements? Why do we get Title I funding? And the designated purpose of those funds. I'm trying to coordinate with, because we have so much information today. Some of the information that I see in the SARP reports, right? For example, for English language learners, I took a quick look at some of the categories, like at ANZA, for example. We have 15 English language learners, but only 26.67% of those are meeting or exceeding the requirements in ELA. That's only 4 students out of the 15, and then the list goes on. So I'm questioning whether or not we should be splitting up these funds. And again, I want to further my understanding if they're targeted, because if we're designating them district-wide, are we not appropriately putting them where they should be to target the increased performance of English language learners, socially disadvantaged or socioeconomically disadvantaged students?
Yeah.
So I'm questioning that because I know we've done this many, many years. But I'm not sure that in the past that it's actually yielded the result for these subcategories. If I'm understanding, based on my understanding of what Title I is. So I'd like to start with a common understanding of what Title I is before we further that conversation, because maybe my comments are off base. I just don't know enough of Title I. So if we can have a presentation on that and then have a further conversation.
All right, we'll bring that right back to you. And there is lots to know about Title I and how our district has, we'd also like to give you a historical perspective on how Title I has been used in the district and brought to us and where we are today. So I'll bring that back.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. So a motion from Neil, a second from Rebecca, all in favor? We're not gonna adjourn to closed session. We actually have a public comment due to my mishap in skipping that. We're gonna allow the public comment. Are we gonna go to that now?
So he has put his hand
You
down.
want to say Eddie Arenda, if you, I know you had your hand up, if you, did you?
If you raise it, and again, we can slide.
So we're running out of time to do that. Yeah, nothing else on our agenda.
So, so the next item, I'm not gonna adjourn just yet. Give them a minute or two. But what we will do is go to the upcoming dates and events, and if we can actually post that or show it. And I think, are we gonna post that on the website, district website, Blake, at all?
Yes, I actually thought it was on there, but I'll double
I
check.
thought this was good. It shows a lot of the important events coming up through the end of the year, through June.
Yeah.
So
I probably put it on.
a little small for my eyes here, but. But I think this would be great to post it on the district website if it's not on there. It really speaks to what you brought up, Rebecca, in terms of some of the important LCAP meetings.
Well, are these, I know we have the new Google Calendar that has all the different school sites and things like that, and I'm wondering if maybe. That's where we could put some of the district, you know, put the LCAP things in the budget, stuff we can, maybe it's its own calendar within that new calendaring system. It's not a resource thing, right, but it is just dates, and maybe that way someone can subscribe to the. Yeah, these stuff.
So coming up to just to point out, you know, the board meeting on the 23rd, we will have subcommittee, we'll have our single plans, will be in front of the board or SIPSAs. And then coming up end of February, we're also gonna have the budget proposal review. We're gonna have now been able to sort of absorb the governor's proposals, and Dr. Hasty will be able to do that. And then we have 2 meetings in March, the same days as they were in February, the 9th and the 23rd. So we'll update it at that point. I think the rest is future something.
Thank you, Blake. Any? Okay, thank you. That concludes the meeting and adjourn.
Are we going?
Do we have a second close? We do.
Very short, very short.
Make it quick,
I
Blake.
mean, we'll be short.
All right, thank you. We're done.
All right, we're done. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for it, Joe.
There you go.